Thanks so much to Thrive Market for sponsoring today's video. We're jumping into a new week, so today I'm doing a little bit of whole family meal prep. I'm gonna do it in an hour or less. I like to keep it really simple and just do a few things so I have foods in the fridge that we can pull from, and I find that it gets the healthy eating momentum going for the week. So I have a baking dish, I have a ton of mixing bowls because we're gonna make a quinoa and kale salad, but I'm gonna make a fall variation of it. It's one of my favorite recipes ever, so I thought we have to make one for fall, right? I'm gonna be making up a little bit of quinoa, and then I'm also making a soup. It's gonna be a chicken meatball soup, tons of veggies, and it's perfect to have with crackers or with bread or a little bit of salad on the side. So they pair well together too. Perfect for lunch or dinner, so it makes it really easy. And then I'm also gonna make a healthier treat, and we're gonna do some almond butter blondies. You can make them completely gluten-free, and they're based mostly just almond butter, so there's tons of good fats, tons of protein in it, but such a delicious treat. And I'm gonna top them with one of my favorite little fun things that the kids I know are gonna love. Okay, so in a small bowl here, I'm putting in 1 cup of my tri-colored quinoa, and then I'm just gonna rinse this under some water. You can do it in a fine mesh sieve, but I don't have one, so I just rinse it in a bowl and then use my hand to kind of let the water drain out. In my pot, I'm gonna turn it to medium-high heat, and I'm gonna add some avocado oil, and I like to toast my quinoa a little bit first. That way it can kind of get a little toasty, and that way it has really good flavor. So I'm just gonna add in all that quinoa that I rinsed, and it's okay if there's some water left because it'll just evaporate. To the quinoa, I'm gonna add in 1 bay leaf because I love how it gives it a little more flavor. And then I'm gonna add in some chicken broth. You can use homemade or just a really good store-bought one. I like this one because it has really clean ingredients. It's just how I make it at home. So I'm gonna do 1 cup of quinoa to about 2 cups of chicken broth. After I added my broth, I let it come to a boil, then I reduce the heat to low, and I'll let that cook for about 15 minutes and then remove it from the heat. I'm pulling out my little scrap produce bag that I always have in the fridge. So I have some parsley and some different onions that need to be used up. So I'm using half a red onion. So for my quinoa and kale salad, I'm doing a big bunch of curly kale. I normally do the dinosaur kale, but they were out of it. So I'm gonna use curly kale, and that works just as well. And then you're gonna wanna do a few cucumbers. I like to either use the mini ones or the English cucumbers. Those are the best in this. So I'm using 3 of the mini ones. You'll want a little bit of red onion that we're gonna dice up really finely, so you're not gonna taste it a ton. It's gonna be pretty mild. And then I love to do a mixture of fresh herbs. So I like to do parsley, a little bit of mint, and then tarragon. Today's video is sponsored by Thrive Market. Thrive Market's an online membership where you can shop their grocery store and have it delivered directly to your door. And they have over 1,000 ingredients that have been restricted and banned from their site. So it's really easy to find organic, affordable, and clean ingredients. From baby to cleaning products, their food, you're sure to find exactly what you're looking for, whether you're just looking to make some healthier swaps like I like to do all the time, or if you're looking to eat out less and cook at home more, but you're struggling to find good quality groceries at an affordable price. This time of year with 4 kids in the house, I know I'm gonna be doing a lot of baking, and I love to swap things out. That way we can still enjoy all the things we love to eat, but they're gonna be cleaner, they're gonna be better for us. So today I did a fall baking haul. I've got a bunch of stuff, including my free gift, which I happen to love this product. These are little honey lozenges with vitamin D and zinc. I love these anyway, but they came as my free gift in my Thrive Market order, so I love that. I just stocked up on a bunch of my goodies. I love buying their organic spices in bulk there, so we have a bunch of cloves and cinnamon. I always have things like organic pumpkin in my pantry. We can do a million things with that. And then all the essentials. Still eating the things you love. Like if you love hot cocoa in the fall, in the winter like we do, try making your own with organic cacao powder. It's gonna be so much healthier than what you can get in the packets. Cut out all those weird ingredients and just shop the real stuff. Thrive Market has it all. And you know I love being able to share a good deal with you, so you can use my link thrivemarket.com/healthyelizabeth, and that's gonna give you 30% off your first order, plus you'll get a free gift like I did, up to $60. So it's a really great deal. I'll have everything linked down below for you in the description box. And thanks so much again to Thrive Market for sponsoring today's video. The key to the salad is just tons of different ingredients and also cutting them the right size. So I like my red onion to be really small and diced finely. So I just run my knife through them as much as I can. And don't be afraid to run your knife back through veggies to get them really finely chopped like a chopped salad. So that's what I'm doing here with these mini cucumbers. I slice them up first and then I run my knife through them, and sometimes I'll run my knife through it again. That way they're really small. Now to pull my kale off the rib, I'll just hold it at the top and then I'll kind of yank down on it. And dinosaur kale is a little easier to do this with. Curly kale, it's a little harder. So just kind of pull the leaves off the stem. Never eat your kale with the stem still on it. You want to take that stem off because it is just so hard to chew. I can never get through it. So I'm going to rip it off and then I'm going to run my knife through it. I kind of ball it up and then I'll chop it as finely as I can because it's not going to be cooked. It's going to be raw. So we want to make sure that it's going to be really easy to eat and digest. I have all the veggies chopped up, and now the key to making this really good is the delicious salad dressing that I like to marinate it in. So before I add in all the veggies to marinate, I'm gonna go to make the salad dressing in the bowl. Here are the ingredients for the salad dressing. I'm gonna put it all in this bowl first. That way the salad dressing can be in here, everything can marinate, and then I'll toss it all together. So we have olive oil, of course, and then I do some apple cider vinegar. This is raw with the mother, organic. This is one of my favorites. I also like the Fairchild's one, they're good. And then a little bit of maple syrup. You can sweeten it to taste. You could use Dijon mustard, but I always love using honey mustard. I think it just makes everything taste better, so I'm gonna use this. And then the kind of special ingredient for this salad dressing that makes it so fall is I'm adding in a little bit of organic apple cider. This is the cold kind, not like a packet apple cider. You definitely want the fresh stuff if you can find it. But adding in about a half a cup of that into the dressing gives it like appley flavor. It sweetens it up and it just screams fall. So that is such a fun way to spruce up your salad dressing. Before I start making the salad dressing, I'm gonna take the lid off my quinoa now. I let it cook for 15 minutes, then I take it off the heat and I let it sit covered for 5 minutes, and then I'll take the lid off for 5 minutes and let all that steam out so it gets nice and fluffy, and then I'll fluff it with a fork, and it makes perfect quinoa every single time, I'm telling you. I love these little glass measuring cups for all of my salad dressings. So I'm gonna start by doing a 1/4 cup of olive oil, into the bowl. And then I'm also going to do a 1/4 cup of the apple cider vinegar. I like to do about equal parts of vinegar to oil. Then I'm gonna do about half a cup of apple cider. You can do a little less if you want, but I'm gonna do, well, I guess I'm gonna do that much. So almost a half a cup of apple cider. About 1 tablespoon of honey mustard, and it also helps to emulsify the dressing, so I'll do about 1 tablespoon just to bring it all together and add a little bit of mustardy flavor. And then I'll do some maple syrup, and the amount of maple syrup you do really just depends on the kind of apple cider you're using and how sweet it is, so you can just sweeten to taste. I'll do about 2 tablespoons. I'll do a nice pinch of black pepper, and then salt again, just to your taste. Okay, so I just whisked all that salad dressing together, and I'm gonna start by putting the red onion in so it can really kind of get in that marinade and start to mellow out a little bit. It helps if you soak red onion to kind of soften up the sharpness it has in the bite. So I'm gonna put that in first to make sure it gets all that goodness. And then I'm also gonna put my kale in there. And after I get the kale and the onions in there, I'm gonna give it just a little bit of a massage. That way the kale can start to break down and soften. If there's one thing most people don't like, it's big chunks of kale that haven't been kind of broken down and softened in a really good salad dressing. So I just like to take your clean hands and just get right in there and start massaging that kale to break it down and make it something you actually want to eat, not just a salad bar topping. So after I've massaged that kale and it's starting to get nice and soft, and you can kind of feel it change texture in your hands, then I'm gonna go ahead and add in all of that fresh cucumber that I chopped up nice and small. Get that in there, and it can start marinating and almost turning into like a pickle because of the vinegar. And then at this point, I'll also go ahead and put in all of my fresh chopped herbs. And there's a few more ingredients that are gonna go in here and turn this into a really fall salad. But for now, I'm just gonna leave it like this and let this marinate. And I'm gonna take my quinoa and fluff it up with a fork and then put that in the fridge so it can chill, because we don't wanna add that quinoa in hot because it'll kind of cook all of our veggies, and we definitely don't want that. So we're gonna let it cool, let this marinate, and then I'll finish it later by adding all the little toppings and parts that make it sweet and crunchy and fall. So before I get started on the chicken meatball soup, which I'm really excited about, I'm gonna go ahead and make my almond butter blondies so they can get baked and I can cool them and then have them cut up into bars to put in the fridge for the week if they last that long. So I'm gonna show you all the ingredients and get these baked off. You can make them dairy-free and gluten-free. So I'm using oat flour, just a little bit. It doesn't need much. You could also use like coconut flour or just regular flour. And then I'm using dairy-free chocolate chips, which is optional, but I'm gonna use those today. You could either use semi-sweet or dark chocolate, whatever you want. So first you're gonna wanna use an 8x8 baking dish. So I'm gonna use this blue one, and I'm gonna line it with parchment paper too in just a second. So I'm using an almond butter here, just a natural creamy almond butter. But the key is that you want to make sure that the only ingredients in it are just almonds. The only ingredients are dry roasted almonds, kind of drippy style almond butter, one that's not no stir. You want to make sure that there's still kind of like that runny liquid on top, the fat and the oils. Then we're going to want vanilla extract, of course, 2 eggs. I have some salt here, my chocolate chips that I'm using, baking soda. This is the oat flour that I'm using. It's just an organic one from Arrowhead Mills. And then we're gonna do a mixture of maple syrup and coconut sugar. Then to top it, you could either top it with a few more chocolate chips or do something fun that I know my kids are gonna love, and I am too. I'm gonna do a few of these chocolate sprinkles. These are like a no-dye sprinkle. They're like a healthier one. So I'm gonna sprinkle some of these over the top instead of chocolate chips to make them really cute and just fun to eat. I'm just gonna trim a piece of unbleached parchment paper, that way it'll fit in the baking dish, and it kind of has some handles to pull out the bars. So I'll trim it this way, just to kind of fit the bottom of my pan. So then I'll fold in the sides and make it creased. That way I can put it in my dish and be able to pull the bars out really easily. I'm just taking a little bit of avocado oil spray and I'm just gonna spray this all over the parchment so it doesn't stick to it. I'm gonna make sure we can get them out to be able to cut them nicely. And I love this little reusable spray bottle for my avocado oil. I was buying the big bottles of avocado oil forever, but now I have this reusable one and I just love it. I am all about the fall treats, but it can also be really easy to overdo it this time of year with just like junk food. So I love making healthier versions of things, and this is one that truly doesn't taste healthier. It tastes just like an amazing Blondie brownie. You don't even know that it's healthy. Like if you gave this to your family and kids, they're not gonna know that anything's up. It is just straight amazing. So I'm using 1 cup of almond butter, just that plain creamy almond butter. It's just almonds, and that is basically the base of this entire dish. And then I'm gonna crack in 2 eggs, and this will bind everything together, and it also gives it some protein. And then this doesn't have any refined sugar in it, so I'm just using a combo of coconut sugar and maple syrup, and that is my favorite because you get the moisture from the maple syrup, but then you get the sweetness and kind of like the dryness you need from sugar from the coconut sugar. So putting them together is just like a match made in heaven. And then I'm using a tablespoon of avocado oil just to add a little bit more moisture, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then you can either use oat flour. Like I said, we're just gonna use a little bit of that, and I like to make it gluten-free, and I had it in my pantry and wanted to use it up, so that's the perfect use because you won't even know it's there. And then you just add baking soda, salt, and then some chocolate chips. So you can use dark chocolate or semi-sweet. You can even use some that are unsweetened, or I love like Lily's white chocolate chips. Those are such a treat. They'd be amazing in here too. And they give it like a fudgy richness. So you can see from this batter just how delicious this is. It's as good as it looks. It's fudgy and rich, and you could put a little bit of like dairy-free ice cream on top, like Halo Top, and they're amazing. Nobody's gonna know this is healthier. It feels like the ultimate fall treat, but it's healthy. So I'm just gonna mix this all together, and it's really as simple as that. You just do it all in one bowl, and then I preheated the oven to 350 degrees, and I'm just gonna dump this into that lined baking sheet, or lined baking pan. It's an 8x8. You could also use a 9x9. That would probably work good too, because these are pretty thick bars. And then I'm gonna bake that for about 30-ish minutes, give or take. You wanna make sure that it's cooked through, but you don't overcook them so they're still a little fudgy. And then to end it on top, you can either sprinkle a little more chocolate chips, or I love these little chocolate sprinkles. It just makes everything look so amazing and decadent. And there we go. This is the perfect fall treat. And you can just put them in the fridge and have them all week long. Now I'm just finishing up my quinoa and kale salad, and this is an apple and kale salad. So I'm taking some nice organic apples here. They're already washed and everything, and I'm just dicing those up pretty finely. And then I don't add them straight into the salad because they'll turn brown. So I'm just putting them in a little bowl, and then I'm squeezing lemon juice over them, and that'll help keep them from turning brown. So you definitely want to do that. Or if you're gonna eat it kind of over a few days, you can cut up apple that day and just add it on top of your salad and stir it in. So you don't have to do it this way if you're gonna eat it over a few days, but we eat things pretty quickly. So between the lemon juice and my family size, I think it'll be gone in about 2 or 3 days. So I'm just adding in all of those chopped apples. I used 2 and they were about medium size. And then I'm adding in all the good toppings. So I've got dried cranberries, and then I love maple roasted or honey roasted pecans. I think I have how I make mine on my website, so you can check there. But I essentially just do raw nuts and then a drizzle of maple syrup or honey, and I just toast those in my oven for a few minutes, and it makes them like delicious candied pecans or walnuts. So I chop those up a little bit and sprinkle those in. And then I love adding in these sprouted pumpkin and sunflower seeds. Extra crunch, so many added nutritional benefits. So we're just throwing everything in there. The Blondies are out and cooling, and it smells like the most amazing like brownie batter in here. They're just starting to kind of drop down a little bit, which is what we want because we want it to have that chewy texture. Oh, Between the candle and the Blondies, I'm ready for fall. This is so yummy. So now I'm so excited. I'm making one of my favorite soups. I made it last week, I think, and it was so good that we all devoured it, and I'm making it again. There's two parts to it. It's a chicken, meatball, and ditalini soup. Ditalini is just a really tiny pasta. It's kind of like a thick pasta, but it's cut short, so it's perfect for bite-sized little soup bites. And so I'm gonna use some of that. And then I have my soup ingredients and my chicken meatball ingredients. And I promise you it's really easy. Let me show you all the ingredients and then I'll show you how to put it together. It's so good to keep in the fridge because you can have it with like the quinoa salad for lunch or dinner this time of year when we have days that are a little bit cooler or rainy and you just want some soup. You can keep this in the fridge for several days at a time and it just gets better. A little trick too is when I put my soups in the fridge, sometimes they start to thicken up because like as ingredients absorb the liquid, it starts to get a little thick. So keep some homemade stock or just some chicken stock in your fridge and thin your soup out as you go and you can kind of make it last longer and longer. We do that all the time because we like to have plenty of broth. This soup is going to be kind of like an Italian soup. It's kind of tomato-y, and the secret ingredient for the best kind of like minestrone brothy tomato-y soups is your favorite marinara sauce. It makes such a difference. The flavor in marinara is just so different than a can of tomato sauce. So skip the can of tomato sauce and start adding your favorite marinara. Mine is this one. This is the Victoria's Organic. You can actually find it at Costco a lot of times. This is a 40-ounce jar, so 2.5 pounds of marinara. And you can use some of it in the soup and keep the rest of it in the fridge and use it for pasta or chicken parmesan or eggplant parmesan, whatever you're doing in the next, week or so. So it's really great to have on hand, but it makes such a difference in the soup. The flavor is so delicious. Okay, so let me show you the ingredients for the soup and the chicken meatballs. People also always ask what pot I'm cooking in. So today I'm cooking in this, I think it's a 6-quart pot. This is a stove pot and it's a big like enamel cast iron pot. So really heavy duty, and it brings everything to a boil quickly and just cooks things perfectly. Nothing ever sticks on the bottom. So this is amazing, along with the Smithy cast iron. Any of those Dutch ovens are by far my favorite. I have this one too, which is a little bit smaller. You can see a side by side, but amazing pots. So I'm gonna be using this big old pot today and we're gonna fill it up. So you can use chicken or ground turkey. I'm gonna use this ground chicken because it's really great quality and I absolutely love it. It's really hard to find good quality chicken, and this is heirloom, slow growth, pasture raised. It's all the good stuff. I'm gonna use a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. We're gonna do a couple splashes of organic whole milk. This just helps to keep meatballs really moist. I'm gonna grate up a bunch of Parmesan to add into the meatballs. That gives them amazing flavor, so that's kind of like a little hack. Garlic powder and Italian seasoning, and then of course we're gonna do salt and pepper. So that's basically it for the chicken meatballs. Now for the actual soup, you're gonna want chicken stock or chicken broth, and then we're gonna do some chopped up onion, a Parmesan rind, or you can just use a chunk of Parmesan, any of that works. 2 stalks of celery, a huge carrot, or you can just use like 1 or 2 smaller carrots, garlic of course, tons to your taste, a couple tablespoons of tomato paste. I get this one at Sprouts. It's a good one. I love these in the tube because then you can just keep it in the fridge and it doesn't go bad for a while. I've got 1 can of fire roasted diced tomatoes. This is a garlic one, but you can use regular. That delicious organic marinara sauce, of course. And then this ditalini pasta, which is an organic pasta made in Italy. So I can link that down below if you want to get it too. And then we're going to end the soup with a whole bunch of greens and add in a bunch of handfuls of baby spinach and let it wilt down. I also forgot that in the chicken meatballs, I always put an egg. So I'm just starting by cracking in 1 egg into that ground chicken and some garlic powder, Italian seasoning, and just season it up. You want to make sure it has plenty of flavor because ground chicken and ground turkey especially, they have very minimal flavor. So you want to make sure you're adding in plenty of spices and herbs and seasonings into that. And that's why I love adding that Parmesan cheese too, because it adds like a Parmesan flavor to the meat, which goes so well in the soup. It's almost like a crouton, but instead of bread, it's meat. So it's really delicious. Just mix that all together. And then I like to use a little mini melon baller. You can either use just a miniature ice cream scoop or a mini melon baller, or a melon baller. It's mini. I'll link it down below if you want to use it. And these are the perfect size for meatballs and soup. It's almost like a matzo ball. And it just makes it so easy to make the perfect little bite-sized ball for your soup. I'm heating up a thin layer of avocado oil in my Dutch oven over medium-high heat, or about medium heat maybe, and then I'm just gonna place all the meatballs in there. I do this in a couple different batches, that way they're not crowded and they can really brown and not just steam. So just do a couple different batches and get them nice and crusty on both sides, but they don't need to be cooked through all the way because they'll finish cooking when they're in the soup. While the meatballs are getting all brown and cooked and caramelized, I'm heading back to my cutting board and I'm gonna cut up the carrots, the celery, and the onion that we're gonna use to kind of be the filler in the soup. And I'm just cutting everything really tiny. That way it kind of just like melts into the soup. So I'm going to put them in a little bowl and then carry back to my stove once it's time for them to go in. And I'm going to end up adding a little bit of pasta into this to kind of fill it out, make it really homey and cozy. But if you want to do it gluten-free, you could either use a gluten-free pasta, but I would recommend not putting it straight in the soup and just keeping it on the side already cooked to add in, because gluten-free pastas tend to want to break down and be a little bit mushier than wheat pastas. So I would just keep that on the side pre-cooked, and then you can add some in and stir it in before you heat up your soup again. And then if you'd rather just opt for more veggies instead of the pasta, depending on if it's for you or your family or who wants what, instead of the pasta, you could do frozen or fresh cauliflower. I love having like little chunks of cauliflower in the soup. It almost mimics pasta. It gives you kind of a different texture and something a little bit heartier, but it's just full of lots of veggies and lots of fiber. Once all my meatballs were done, I used the bottom of my tongs to just scrape up all of those little brown bits, and we're gonna keep that in there and saute our veggies straight into that rendered fat and oil from the chicken meatballs. And we're gonna get all those veggies nice and soft, seasoned with lots of salt and pepper because we wanna make sure that everything is really well flavored. And then I add in more Italian seasoning, and all of that garlic's gonna go into after these veggies are tender. After everything is simmered for a while and the pasta is cooked through, the meatballs are cooked through, then I take several handfuls of spinach, and you can do pretty much as much as you want. I'm doing about 3 ounces, but you could do more. And I just like to run my knife through it so there's not kind of stringy bits of spinach, but just fine little bits. And then I take the rest of my spinach and I put it in my freezer bag to put in the freezer for smoothies. And that's how I have spinach that never goes bad in my house. I'll use what I want to use fresh, but then I'll immediately put the rest in the freezer for smoothies, and it never goes to waste. And then earlier when I made the quinoa salad, I had some left over, so now that works as another little meal prep, and I can have this on the side with salmon or chicken, and that's just another easy little lunch. And then I'll add that spinach into the soup. I'm gonna cut up my bars and put them in the fridge. You can either individually wrap them. I love my little glass storage containers. They make it really easy for meal prep. I love to store everything in glass. That way there's no leaking plastics, microplastics in there. And it just makes the whole week a whole lot better when you have things already in the fridge. It kind of makes it low stress, and you can make food that is healthy, delicious, and uncomplicated. And you can make it in an hour or less. I hope you got inspired meal prepping with me today, and I have so many ideas for fall and winter, so make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bells. Don't forget you can check out my link in the description box so you can try out Thrive Market and shop all my essentials. Thanks again to Thrive Market for sponsoring today's video.